Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Black Real Estate Dialogue Podcast. I'm very excited about this episode today. Here with me, I have Dionte Chantel out of East Orange, New Jersey. Dionte, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you for having me.
For sure, for sure.
Glad to be here.
So first, I would just love to know more about what your childhood was like and what you saw or maybe what you didn't see that shaped your view of building wealth.
Sure. My childhood, I grew up pretty much low income housing in Brooklyn, New York. I didn't really see an example of wealth. I think the only person that was able to exhibit wealth was my grandfather. He lived in a house out in New Jersey. And I always knew as a kid, okay, this is the guy that has some money in the bank. But in my household, it was just me and my mom. I had the best of everything, I must say, but I didn't think we had money. I know we didn't have money, but my mother made sure that I was well kept. The good thing is, and I always tell people this, wealth is more than financial. It's health, it's education. And one thing I can say is my grandmother and my mother instilled in me that getting your education is key, period. So that's what I focused on for the most part, was just getting high school education, because my mom didn't graduate from high school, but she got a GED. And I focused on graduating from college. And that's because they really pushed me and influenced me to do so from a young age.
Sure, sure. And could you also give us, you spoke a bit about this off camera, but could you give us just an overview of what you do within real estate?
Sure. So I am a real estate developer. I focus on urban communities throughout the United States. I'm also an advocate for fair housing and affordable housing as well. I'm also a realtor, and I work with many nonprofits in the New York and New Jersey area, helping homeless families find housing. And we focus on, relocation special, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Of course I would start stuttering, right? Relocation services. And I also would consider myself a first-time home buyer advisor. We work closely with buyers with the housing counseling that you would need to get the grants. We work with HUD to give those opportunities to first-time home buyers, make sure they're getting the proper grants, the training. Also, just teaching them about budgeting and credit and you name it.
Definitely. You're also a landlord as well, right?
I am a landlord. I currently own a house and some land in New Jersey, and then I have 2 houses and land in Kansas City, Missouri as well.
For sure, for sure. Awesome. So why real estate? Why did you decide that real estate was going to be one of the ways you built wealth and also one of the ways that you served others? What made you come to that point?
Real estate and I kind of collided. I never knew anything about real estate. Even when I studied it in undergrad, I had like real estate law classes. I didn't even do well in those classes, believe it or not. But I came from a sales background, and I had a good friend who said, you know what, you don't seem happy at that position. And this is when I was graduating from undergrad. She said, you know what, you're beautiful, become a real estate agent in New York City. And she was like, I make money, I'm sure you'll make money too. And that's how I actually got into real estate. And believe it or not, people don't know this about me, but my dad, he didn't raise me, he wasn't really there for me, but he was a real estate investor the whole time.
Wow.
And he had over 12 properties in Brooklyn. He had a mortgage company, he had a real estate brokerage for agents as well. And he didn't show me anything about real estate. So for me to come into this business and thankfully dominate it without his guidance, I think this is what I'm destined to do. But I say all that to say, I went to a seminar. One time I just heard it on the radio. I went to a seminar, I'm not going to say the name. And I was just so moved by how you can obtain wealth through real estate. And in my eyes, it was easy. I was like, wow, I could do this. Like, I love real estate as it is. I'm passionate about it. I worked as a real estate paralegal for years, and I was like, you know what, this is the way. I'm going to become a millionaire and retire by, I think I said 33 years old. And at the time I was 24. So I just knew real estate was going to be the path of wealth. And once I got started, the hunger for it just never stopped. And helping people, that's just second nature for me. Me even being able to help homeless families, that kind of just came in aligned with me. I didn't go looking for it. I didn't know there was programs out there that would allow you to help homeless families and even, make a commission. And it wasn't because I was doing it for the money. I was doing it because of the opportunity. I had many friends, and including myself, I had an apartment or two that I was able to host for these homeless families because they're the ones being discriminated against mostly. Mm-hmm. So I knew I had what they needed, the programs needed, which was the apartments, and I knew I can convince landlords to take the program, and it was just a marriage, and as far as helping my community, if we don't do it, who is?
Yeah.
Especially to make it benefit us, so in many different ways, I feel like God just wants me to be here doing what I'm doing.
Absolutely. So can you walk us through your first deal, your first real estate acquisition?
Okay, so my first real estate acquisition deal was as a wholesaler, and we'll say the first deal I closed on because, in wholesaling, it can take months to close.
Yeah.
And this deal was right after I was fired from my real estate paralegal job. And I was already working on a deal I could have made $100,000 on. Like I was doing like big deals because I was just connected with people that had the deals, and it just was easy. It came on my table easily. But at this time, I had just lost my job, a job that I was going to quit anyway because I knew I outgrown the position. And I knew of a wholesaler. So it was a reverse wholesaling type of transaction. It was a guy I knew who was wholesaling deals from auction.com. And then I had the buyer, and he pretty much paid me a fee of $7,500 just for bringing a buyer. He was making 40 grand flipping houses from auction.com. I just made the 7,500, but it made sense to me. Also, another deal I found on Facebook. That one came a little easier as well. I knew the guy I was wholesaling to. He was like a mentor to me. I made $10,000 from that deal.
Wow. Yeah. I think that's really interesting. Just the fact that you started with wholesaling, and it seems like that's how a lot of people get started, to build capital and to learn. What did you learn from wholesaling? How was it beneficial to you that early on in your real estate journey?
Right. So wholesaling that's the way I would say you get the most training in the field. You get even more training than of a real estate agent by wholesaling. You're learning how to evaluate numbers. You're learning how to source the properties, how to find the properties before anybody else. You're learning how to even estimate rehabs. So people don't realize that you need to know what the rehab budget is going to be to even allow your deals to make sense. And wholesaling, ultimately, I actually don't like wholesaling anymore. And we'll talk about that probably later. But it actually pushed me into rehabbing or flipping houses, as far as like fix and flip. It pushed me into development also. At one point, I was circumvented on a deal, and it was by, an investor that didn't care about our community. I don't want to put no groups out there, but we know the story. They took over Brooklyn.
Yeah.
They take over wherever they're going to take over, and then they're going to tell you who they're not going to rent to in your community. And that bothered me greatly. And I was like, you know what? Why am I even dealing with this? I realized then I'm not creating the narrative in my community. I'm selling out my community. Right. And of course, I could have sold it to a person or a buyer that looked like me, but of course, they have the money. It's an easy transaction. But I felt like I was, selling my community out. like it was drugs. You know,
Yeah.
I felt like it never sit well in my stomach, in my spirit, and that pushed me out of wholesaling.
Wow.
I was circumvented so bad to the point where I lost $40,000 on the deal. And I was mad, and I was like, I'm never selling to these guys again. Da, 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 da. Now, not for nothing, I wind up selling one more deal, not to that buyer, but to another set from that group and of people, we'll say. Um, but that really changed the narrative for me that, you know, wholesaling is not beneficial to me or my community. Think about buying and hosing, think about rehabs and keeping it and making sure you put in the proper families in those houses. So it motivated me and changed my perspective.
For sure. When you say circumvent, do you mean the buyer went around you to get the property?
Mm-hmm. He sure
Oh, wow.
did. He sure did, and said, "What you gonna do about it?" Afterwards. So yeah,
Literally.
uh, that's a whole unfiltered, uncut story we gotta talk about.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So in my
Wow. So you just went around you and got the deal on his own.
yeah, he did. And you know, the good thing is I made him put down a what is that? A non-refundable deposit. So he lost some money, but he got the deal significantly lower.
Yeah.
So and I needed it to happen.
Yeah.
And not only did I lose that deal, I lost all of the other deals that I had with that seller. So it was a very unfortunate situation. But again, it happened for a greater purpose. And now I can say I'm not a wholesaler, but I know how to source properties like wholesalers. And I know that it pushed me into my purpose right now. I would
Absolutely.
have stayed a wholesaler. It's easy.
For
You know?
sure. For sure. Got it. Got it. So wholesaling was first. So where did things go from there? And what was your next move after you decided that wholesaling just wasn't what you wanted to do anymore?
Right. So I started, you know, still was sourcing the properties. I was getting deals from REO agents, and that's bank-owned real estate from the banks, and they hire agents to sell it. So I had a guy who was an agent, and he was just handing me deals. He was saying, you know what, you want this deal? It's yours. So that's when it was sweet.
Got it. So once you figured out that you didn't want to do wholesaling anymore, where did things go from there?
Yeah, so you know, I continue to source the properties, find properties. In that case, I started closing on properties and then wholesaling it shortly after, versus, you know, assigning the contract or doing an LLC buyout. And then I just started keeping deals for myself. You know, I would get really deeply discounted properties from the banks, from auctions, and a partner and I, we just started rehabbing them together. You know, she was already out there sourcing hard money and private money, and she just pretty much took me under her wing and introduced me to all of the private money lenders that she knew of, and we would just close on deals, and the rest was history. And for the most part, you know, once you close on a property and you're the owner, it's going to be hard for anyone to circumvent you, you know. So that was the good part about it. And you want to know what's so funny? That
What?
same buyer, because when you always have what someone needs, they're always going to come back, right?
Yeah.
So he just saw my deal circulating around New Jersey, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I want this property." He reached out to one of my homeboys, and something told me to ask for the LLC documents before anything, and it was the same guy that circumvented me a few months before, and I told him, "Kick rocks," because I wasn't selling him anything, you
Hey, I
know.
don't blame you.
So
He showed who he was, you know? So
exactly,
that's
exactly.
really cool. What I like about it is, a lot of times things don't go as planned or we go in a different direction, but
Mm-hmm.
you could have easily said, you know what, wholesaling, I don't think it's I don't think the way I'm doing is right for my community. I got circumvented. A buyer went around me for a deal. I'm done.
Mhm.
Real estate is not
Right.
for me. However, what you did was, I like what you did because you just took it in a different direction. You started getting, you still were able to source deals because you built that skill set. And
Mhm.
then you were able to wholesale it in your own way. As you mentioned, you just acquire it, then wholesale it, which turned into keeping some deals for yourself
Yep.
and just continuing to grow. So I know we're still very early in the story, but I think that's something that I don't want to pass over.
Yeah.
And for our listeners, like, hey, the first strategy you might do, it may not be what you do long term,
Right.
but it can be a step towards what you're meant to do.
Right. Absolutely. And I encourage everyone, if again, and I don't know if we caught this earlier, if you are going to wholesale, one, learn how to do it properly, right? Two, make sure you're selling your properties to people that can actually be beneficial to your business plan. So if you're looking to be a developer in the future or a rehabber or whatever, make sure that person can assist you. Partnerships are the most important things. You know, if they're not really going to, especially when wholesaling, why give them a house at a discounted price if you can't really benefit from it after it's sold? So in many cases, you can still wholesale and partner on that same house or get some interest in a house if you know how to negotiate. So I would just learn how to, how to negotiate, how to property source. And as long as you always are able to come with what people need, they're going to love working with you, especially now. There's hardly any deals right now. Everything's at the top of the market, and who knows what the future holds. But you should be wholesaling and creating partnerships every step of the way.
For sure, for sure.
Mhm.
So one thing you did mention was that you started keeping some of those deals for yourself, and you did also mention hard money. It's something that either usually people know what it is and they use it. People know what it is to some degree, and they're afraid of it, or people
Right.
just are like, what in the world is hard money?" So can you talk about what is hard money and how you used it at that point in your career?
Sure. So hard money is pretty much a short-term loan with higher interest rates. So typically, I've seen it as low as 7% all the way up to 25%, depending on your credit, your experience, especially now. And that's just an interest. I recommend, right, first of all, right now, post COVID-19, hard money companies are not lending to newbie investors. So you're going to have to partner with someone for that experience, or you need to be funding private money and, and convincing those people to give you the money to do your projects. But for the most part, hard money has helped me and many other investors get started in real estate as for the rehab perspective of things. Because one, you can close in as low as 3 days, the people I work with. And some of them are not looking at credit. A lot of them are. You don't really need to have a lot of money, but in some cases, as a newbie investor, because I'm sure some of the people will be newbies, you do need 20%. You could do creative financing to get that together. But now, after COVID-19, yes, it's harder to get hard money. You will need more money to put down. But in the past, I was able to use it to literally build my real estate portfolio.
For sure, for sure. And then did you use the hard money for the acquisition and the rehab and
Yes,
refinance out? Was that kind of your
yes,
formula?
yes. So typically, it would be 10%. Well, because I was able to, my partner, right? I was able to use her experience starting out. Actually, again, I met her through wholesaling. So you never know who
Okay.
you're going to be wholesaling. And then we became this, power team together. But I was able to use her experience through an operating agreement. So it made it seem like I had the experience. But in all reality, she had all the experience. So when it came to me putting down money, I only needed to put down 10%. And then, yes, they would give you the money 100% for the rehab and 90% for the purchase. And then you needed to, again, that experience, you need experience to refinance and to cash out. So it's all about structuring your paperwork correctly and truly getting aligned with the people that can actually help you.
For sure.
And yes, you can cash out on properties. And there's still some programs out there right now where I just did one in Missouri. I was able to cash out.
For sure. For sure. So what were those early days like, just being a first time landlord?
So for the most part, I did one of my first houses was utilizing a government program such as like a Section 8, and then we had another program that helped homeless families, relocate into housing. And I mean, both programs, I always say Section 8 is never late. And during this time, first of all, a lot of people discriminate against Section 8 tenants, and we don't realize that. They don't want to take Section 8, but they're silly. And especially if you're a Black landlord, you should definitely, I would say, screen your tenants, but definitely consider Section 8. I've never had a late Section 8 payment for any reason. Now, not for nothing, sometimes the actual tenant may be late on their portion, but the majority of the Section 8 payment will pay your mortgage in many cases. So I would recommend adding that into your business model. And then with the homeless program, they pay the year's rent up front. So
I'm sorry, what?
they pay the year's rent up front. Yeah, it was
In
weird. They
full?
don't even do that no more in New Jersey, but in New York, they do it still. So literally, they would give you the entire year's rent up front at the move-in date.
In
So that
full.
was in full, in full. So that was most of the time, that was my capital to get started on another project. Or, but I had the year's rent up front. We would, reinvest that money as they came also.
Got it. Got it. Wow.
So, and a lot of people came to me because they knew I had those clients. They wanted to help, of course, but they also know, all right, Dionte has the clients with the money. And in many cases, it would be $25,000 up front.
Wow.
For the year. And
so
then,
you essentially could just pay off the mortgage for the year and keep whatever aside and then reinvest the rest.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. And, I don't know if we spoke about this yet, but I think I did mention as an agent, that's what I primarily did. The great thing is we were able to, and I don't know, I like to speak life into people. So I was able to turn 2 families into homeowners. So it wasn't just, we're just going to get you in here. I wanted to make sure that during that year, you didn't have to pay any rent. You're saving your money. You're building your credit. You're thinking about the future. And one of the units was actually a basement apartment. And they wound up buying the entire house.
Wow.
I just thought that was like, look at God,
And that one of the families that you placed into wow.
Yep. So you just never know.
Yeah.
And I'm always for people bouncing back and getting everything in order. So you just never know who you're going to be speaking to and who you can speak life into. And I didn't really coach them as much as I wanted to. I just literally had 2 conversations with them about credit and home ownership. And I told them, you can go from paying no rent now and for the rest of your life if you do it correctly. This 1 year of free rent could turn into many years of free rent through home ownership. So.
For sure. And was this all primarily like in the East Orange area?
Yeah. So that particular house was in Newark, New Jersey.
Got it.
Yep. But these people came from, I think they were from the Bronx. Most of my clients were from New York. And as we know, New York is just extremely expensive to live there, and they discriminate for everything. So, they wanted the apartment. I said you could have it, but I was speaking life into them. Make sure you're putting yourself in a position to never go back to the shelter again. Make sure you're staying employed. Make sure you are building your credit during this time.
For sure. That's really cool. I think it's interesting that it comes full circle. So you mentioned in those early days, just being being a landlord, you worked with Section 8, and you also worked with the program placing homeless families,
Mhm.
and it ties into your work as an agent as well. So I think it's
Yeah,
interesting that all those things you do, they benefit one another in, as an agent, as an investor. So I think it's a really cool way to almost like hack the system to benefit you and also to benefit other people as well.
absolutely. Yep, I feel like, and a lot of these clients, some of them has become family. Some of them, of course, did have to go back to the shelter because they didn't listen to me. We didn't stay in contact, maybe. But you got to have the right mindset before you even leave the shelter. And then let's say you did um, get an apartment or you did have a job when you left the shelter, but you got to maintain that. Everything is mindset, right? So some people got it and some people just didn't. And then some of them still reach out like now, maybe it's 2 years later, oh, I'm ready to buy a house now. I have a higher paying job, so mindset to want more out of life is very important, to be optimistic. And some people were and just some were not, unfortunately.
For
Yeah.
sure, for sure. That's really cool. That's really cool. And what was the name of that? What is the name of that program that helps the homeless families?
Yeah. So the name of the program is Special One-Time Assistance,
Okay.
and it's also known as SOTA. And Mayor de Blasio out of New York created it, I think back in like 2015, 2016 or so. And it's kind of phasing out now because most of the time, the people do not pay the rent after the year, unfortunately. But I think he did an incredible initiative. He started an incredible initiative to at least get people back on their feet.
Hmm.
I've been contemplating on how I can create my own program.
Yeah.
Um, as a developer, especially since I'm going to be rebuilding communities and
Hmm.
helping with down payment assistance or whatever. How can I recreate that program and make it as like a grant, for people that need it? And it may not just be for homeless people, it could be for anybody, especially after COVID-19. We're going to see some people that just need the extra help. So, yeah,
For
if you
sure.
want to check it out, SOTA program, if you Google it, I'm sure you'll get all the information.
For sure. For sure. Cool. Cool. So you started, got some property in New Jersey. So
Mm-hmm.
talk to me about going long distance. A lot of people, it's foreign, right? For the majority of that, for the average person, it's something that's very foreign, right? Um, I currently live in California. I invest in Ohio. I got a property in
Nice.
Ohio last year, and people went ballistic. I'm exaggerating, but people were just like, "What do you mean? Like, how could you
Mm-hmm.
do something like that?" What? And so, I would love to hear your perspective, because you are from a, you know, big market, coastal city as well, and you invest in the Midwest. So, I would just love to hear more about how that thought even came into your mind.
I was not thinking about Kansas City, Missouri. I didn't even know where Kansas City, Missouri was. Like, that sounds crazy, but I knew nothing about it. One of my business development advisors, we'll say, he and I, we noticed New Jersey was just becoming too expensive. Philly was becoming, well, Philly is still, you can still get into that market, but he was just like, you know what, where I'm from, we can get you properties for $1,000. I was like, what? Okay. And it took him like 6 months to convince me to get on a flight to go there. But he was like, you know what? If you come here, I'm gonna set you up here and here and here and here. Like, he had a lot of business relationships throughout the United States, and we were gonna start an OZ fund together. But I say all that to say, I recommend anybody looking to get into real estate, if your market is too expensive and it doesn't allow you to invest there, you have to look elsewhere. There's many different urban markets or high-end markets throughout the United States that are less expensive than your market. $1 million home in New York can be $250,000 in Kansas City, Missouri, right? So you have to just, one, do a lot of research. Two, I would say get a mentor that's going to help you, make that decision and, do those projects long distance. You're going to need boots on the ground. So you're going to need to be working with really good investors. Really good wholesalers or agents in that new city. You're definitely going to need a contractor if you're not one already, and you're going to need a handyman, more so than a property manager to help you. Because the handyman, if they're good, they know how to do both. So my handyman that I have, he's able to evict people if I needed him to, and then he's also able to fix plumbing if I need him to. So you want to kind of find a hybrid, because all a property manager is going to do is charge you 10% a month, and then you still have to pay a handyman to do the work. So I got lucky, and I found one that does everything. But you do want to build the relationships. Go on the internet and find out who's doing things. Ask for one. If you buy a deal from the most popular wholesaler, he's gonna know people that can assist you, and he will refer people to you. But I say go for it, do it. If I could buy all of Kansas City, I would. If I could buy all of Ohio, I would. I'm actually going to be out there in 2 weeks.
Going to
Cleveland,
Cleveland,
and I want to say Toledo,
Gotcha.
Ohio.
Okay.
We're
Cool.
going to. We have some development projects that we're going to be working on out there as well. But yeah, I mean, newbie investors, if you get a deal in Cleveland, that 20-30% that we're speaking of when it comes to hard money or, getting a loan, it may only be $7,000. It depends on how cheap, the property is.
Right.
So I think it's a very easy way to get into the market when you're tapping into cheaper markets, we'll say.
For sure. For sure. So when you went out there for the first time, like, what was your impression, and what were some of the indicators at that time or perhaps after that told you, I think this is a move I want to make?
Well, for Kansas City, first of all, it's like New York City with no people. Like when I say that, I love New York City. I'm from Brooklyn, but it's just overpopulated, and I don't personally like the crowd. And when I first went there, they had these beautiful high-rise buildings, and the town was empty. And I was like, wow, okay, I can live here, right? But then once I went to the urban communities, I'm like, I'm from here. I grew up in this. They need my help. Literally, that's what I said. They need my help. They need my vision. The people that are here now, the people that are investing in Kansas City, most of them are not. They don't look like me. So imagine if I pour into that community, or I become vested in that community, what would turn out. So I just saw the need, what was needed there, and I knew it wouldn't become too complicated for me to achieve those goals. And they have a lot of opportunities there. So I'm giving y'all a gem right now. But there's a lot of opportunities in Kansas City, Missouri. And it was just a no-brainer. Of course, I was advised to go there, and I was still advised to buy. Once I got there, all right, you should buy here. I was also, because I have a nonprofit, I was able to acquire lots for free. So, you can get free properties when you have a nonprofit in real estate. And, everything just was aligned. It just became easier. I became politically connected out there, because as you get bigger in real estate, it really becomes political. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know, God just made it work out there. I don't know.
For sure. I definitely want to make sure we get on the nonprofit piece. But first, what was your first deal like in Kansas City? Like, what did it look like? How did you finance it? All that good stuff.
Right. So for Kansas City, the first deal I purchased, it already had a tenant inside of it. Mm-hmm. I paid, I think it was on the market it was off market. It was for $42,000. I wind up getting it for, I can't remember. I believe it was about like $39,000, $38,000 or so. It didn't really need any repairs. I did a walkthrough of it. The tenant was at the time paying like $800, and it was good to go. So I'm like, all right, it's cash flowing correctly for the price. If you were using what they say, the 1% rule, it made sense in real estate. And then I don't even have that tenant there anymore.
Mhm.
Now I have, without doing any upgrades, I'm now getting like $1,100 for the same unit for 3 bedroom.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's a for single family?
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. It's a three
That's a
bedroom, one
that's
bath.
really hot for the Midwest.
Yeah, and it's a
Wow.
Section 8 tenant. So the good thing is with Section 8, you could actually get even more. If you're paying all of the utilities, you can get 3 bedroom Section 8 voucher for about $1,350. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So yeah, so I do cover the utilities. I
Mhm.
even include Wi-Fi because I have
Yeah.
cameras in my house, so I like to see what's happening. And she's able to, I did it for $1,128 or so. Yep. So I bought it at the 39K, 38K, and it's now worth. This was back in November. I bought it for my birthday last year. Now it's worth. I would say with no work, it's worth about $100,000. Now I do want to go in there and just, spruce up the bathroom, spruce up the kitchen, and it will be worth 125,000.
Wow. How many years ago was that? Did you get that deal?
So this one I just got like in November.
Wow.
Yeah. So and the good thing with that one, I was already able to cash out. I couldn't cash out at the 125 technically, because I didn't really put a lot of work into it.
Mhm.
But I was able to cash out at the 100 range.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
And what did
So
you use hard money for that one?
for that one, I used private money.
Private money. Okay.
Yep, I came
And
to the deal with I think for that one 20%. So 20% of 39,000 is less than 8 grand.
yeah. Got it.
Yep.
Got it. And then did you pay off the investors once you refied?
Yes.
Got it.
Yep.
Wow. That's incredible. That's incredible.
Mhm.
How many properties do you have out there again?
So I have 2 properties and I have a lot
Right.
that I could put 2 more properties on right now.
Got it. Got it. Talk to us about the second deal after that one.
So the second deal, I'm actually still working on it right now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's the deal that I was
Oh
talking about on
yeah,
the live the
you
other
you
day.
mentioned that. You mentioned that.
Yeah,
Is
so
that's
this
still in the
deal,
rehab process?
yeah, it was a soft rehab, but we discovered that it just had a lot of mold, and
Okay.
I would never put a family in there with that amount of mold or any amount of mold. So
Yeah.
I had to just leave it, and I said I'll come back. I
Yeah.
could send somebody there to finish it for me, but I'm very particular, and I'll just be back there anyway. Um, so to make a long story short, this new other deal was in a different section of Kansas City, where the comps were about 200,000 for a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, right? So the market has appreciated crazy, like crazy. I think we purchased that one in December, and now the 2 bedroom, 1 baths are selling for 190 when it was only 150 before. So the neighborhoods are appreciating tremendously. Like it's
Right.
crazy. So now I don't even have to add a bedroom. I don't have to add a bathroom, and I can
Yeah.
still sell it at the same price. But I'm actually not going to sell anything. I'm just going to refi and keep it and put a Section 8 tenant in that property as well.
For sure. For sure.
Mhm.
And you mentioned also that you got a lot out there as well. So can you talk about that?
Mhm.
Lot kind of what that acquisition process is even like to purchase a lot, and also what your plans are for it.
Right. So this particular lot that I was just speaking about came with the house that we were just talking about. So I do plan to either put mobile home on there. I think that would be the cheapest route. Or I can build a modular home, and that would take about maybe 2 months to put a modular home up, or even less, because it doesn't really take long to get those up. Um, or yeah, I'll probably do like a duplex or triplex on the land.
Got it.
Yep. Now they do have land bank in Kansas City, Missouri, and they also have land bank in Kansas City, Kansas, which is the state right next door and the city right next door. And basically, land bank in Missouri, they will allow you to buy a property. You can put in an offer. Most of the properties are knockdowns. So you can knock down a property, and you could probably pay about $1,000 for the lot, I would say. And then in Kansas City, Kansas, because I have a nonprofit and because I know who I know, sorry, it is political sometimes, they will give me the lots for free.
So you got a lot in Kansas City, Kansas for free?
Well, the ones that I will be
Missouri.
closing on, right? The ones I'm working on closing on, yes, they are going to be free.
Wow.
Now, yeah.
How does that happen?
Well, they want you to, for one, they're in desperate need of developers, I must say.
Sorry, Kansas City, Kansas or Missouri? I can't get enough.
So I'm sorry, in Kansas City, Kansas.
Okay.
They are in desperate need of developers.
Got it.
So, and even if they don't give you the lot for free, the lots only cost they start at like $3,000. So it's not really a lot of money.
Yeah.
And of course, the larger the lot, the more money it would be.
Right.
But typically it starts at about $3,000. Now there is a process. They're not going to just let you buy it. You have to meet with everybody in the neighborhood board associations, everybody to get approved. But once that's done, they'll sell you the lot. And if you build on it quickly, and you have a nonprofit, they will definitely give it to you for free.
Got it. So your plan is to either put mobile homes on there or develop a multi-unit on that property, on that land?
So the land in Kansas City, Kansas, I would do residential communities on the land there. I don't really think I would do a mobile home because they don't want it. You have to go past their board and their community neighborhood associations. And they're going to say, if they don't like your business model as far as what the infrastructure of the homes are going to be, they will reject it.
Got it. Do you know what exactly you're approved to build on that land?
For the one in Kansas City, Kansas, the one that I'm closing on, we can do, so all of the lots, we can do single residence homes.
Got it.
Yeah. Yep. And they're all going to be subdivided. They want, they have in mind that I'm going to build about 10 houses.
Wow. How large is that land in the one in Kansas?
I would say one of the main one that I'm looking at is about 5 to 6 acres of land.
Wow.
Yeah.
So got it. So as far as like development, how do you get the money to build? How does that even work? So you have the land, how do you go from land to X number of houses on it? Like how do you fund that kind of thing?
Right. So for me, to get started on the projects, of course, you have to have capital, okay? Just to get approved, whether you're going through land bank or whoever, just to get approved, you do need to have capital to get plans, to be able to, to set up the renderings and to get the blueprints, to even see if they're going to give you the land, in this case, right? You need to have your plans together. And that could cost thousands of dollars. All right, so you do need some money to play with. In my case, I've been networking with a lot of individuals. Remember, I was going to start a OZ fund initially. That was my goal, and it still is. Things has just changed a little. I don't know if it's going to be an OZ fund, which is the Opportunity Zone Fund, but I think I am going to still continue with the idea of starting a real estate fund. Maybe it may just be to fund my deals or the people that's in my group or my mentees. So, but I've been networking with a lot of other funds and people who have money, private money lenders, to allow my vision to come to pass. Now, there is hard money programs out there that will allow you to do ground up construction. You do need to have the experience to do that, to get the money. So what I will say is, because me and my partner and I, we rehabbed over, now is about 25 houses.
Wow.
Together and separately, like not 25 by myself, but collectively, it's actually over 25 houses. That shows our experience on paper. But some of these hard money companies, they do want the contractor to have had at least 3 ground up construction builds. So luckily for me, my fiance, who is a contractor, he has that experience.
Right.
Even if he didn't have the experience, my business model was to do modular homes or prefab homes. Okay. And most cities and states, the prefab homes are the same equation as stick-built homes. It all depends on the foundation of the house.
What does prefab mean?
So a prefabricated is what it fully means, but it means that, in a sense, in layman's terms, they have warehouses where they go and build houses. So you're not worrying about it snowing, raining, or anything. You're building a house from start to finish in a particular warehouse, and then they go and deliver the house in pieces to the land, and they place it on foundation. So you have to excavate and have the foundation set up for them to drop the house on. Now, a lot of the buildings that you may see going up in your community or in Brooklyn or wherever, especially in Brooklyn, most of those buildings, downtown Brooklyn, are prefab buildings. Like, believe it or not.
Got it.
And wow. It's like putting a puzzle together.
Yeah.
I've seen them, build out roofs and, the outside of the buildings in Brooklyn, and they put it up in like 2 weeks. I've seen it happen. Even China. Most of this comes from China, and they put up a whole hospital for Corona in 2 weeks. And that's using prefab.
Got it.
Yep.
Wow. That's fascinating. Can you talk about like the networking you did? I know you mentioned politically you got connected, and I think is really cool because you don't live there, right? You don't live in Kansas City. You live in New Jersey. You're in the Northeast. So how can you talk us through? And it also seems like when you want to do this type of development, it's important to get connected politically and get people on your side. So can you talk about how you were able to do that, being a long distance developer and investor?
Yeah, I mean, I can't even credit myself. Literally, my business advisor, he, not for nothing, he helped me get designated as a developer in Newark and East Orange, New Jersey. And he kind of just showed me, I don't want to say he showed me how to be a developer, but he did. I have to give him credit because he showed me the real game of this business and its politics, And, I'm not saying you're lobbying anybody, but you do need to know your politicians who make the decisions in your community. And I have never paid anybody for nothing because that's your job to listen to what I have to say to help our communities, right? But, I know where to meet them at. I know where to go. And basically it's an open floor. The city council meetings is where you meet politicians that service their communities. And a lot of them, and you also would meet with like someone from economic development. They're the ones that's also going to tell you what may be allowed in the city, what's coming up in the city, what's being worked on presently. So you just need to know those things to see, if your business model will fit well with the business model of the city, with the infrastructure of where the city is going. And luckily, the people that he introduced me to, they're old school politicians that still have connections throughout the whole United States. And that's why I believe, I was aligned to that person. God connected me to this particular person, and he knows the politicians in New Jersey. So he's able to get on the phone and say, oh yeah, Dionte White is coming. If I go to Philly, Dionte White is coming. If I'm going to Ohio, I have a female Black developer who wants to rebuild Black communities, Don't give her any problems. I mean, literally, it could be like that. And I'm not saying that is right, but sometimes we need that push, that help, And I hate to say it, but when the whites go and do it, it's no problem.
Yeah.
And what I say, literally, they're lobbying in our communities. And then when we try to buy in our communities and we try to get land or redevelop in our communities, we get sometimes, the stiff shoulder, like, why am I helping you? Like, get anywhere. So sometimes you need that guidance and you need that help.
For sure. Wow, that's fascinating. So you would just kind of go out there, go to the meetings, and meet with people.
Yeah,
Kind of
network.
got
Hmm.
it. Wow, that's really cool. That's incredible. Um, and so, what is your vision? What is your vision, just like in the future? Because you've done a whole lot, right? You've done wholesaling. You're currently a landlord. You're now getting into your long distance investor. You're
Yep.
investor in your local market. Now you're taking the next step. You're going into development and rebuilding communities. So can you just talk more about just what you see for yourself in the future? And if you'd like, you can talk more about this development project or even beyond that, like what you see kind of
Right.
down the road, like the big dream.
I mean, the big dream is endless, like whatever God has in store for me. But I definitely want to make an impact in this world, especially in our communities. I want to motivate everyone to, I mean, real estate is not going to be for everybody, but definitely start investing, start learning how to make money in different ways. No one's going to teach it to you. I mean, I wish I could teach it to everybody, or at least if I can't reach out to people that can in your communities. Um, what's next for me in the most immediate future is my Newark and East Orange projects. Those are finally coming to a halt and I could close and move forward. I'll be doing 2 duplexes in East Orange, New Jersey. Newark, hopefully we'll be able to do, because we got
Oh,
a
like
good amount of
ground
land.
up development.
Ground up development, yes.
Wow.
So Newark, one plot of land that we have, we could put like a 40-unit building on. And the other 4, I'll say, we can do like a duplex or a triplex on those units. So we already have it set up to make those properties for Newark residents, first-time home buyers, owner occupants that will live in the property. We'll give them, all of the training that they would need to house hack or make money in real estate. And it really teach them how to, generate wealth and allow real estate to empower them for their legacy. So that's what I'm working on right now. I also have a real estate female, I don't want to say Black female, but a female developer coaching program that I started a couple of weeks ago. And we're in phase 1 of it. Right now I'm meeting weekly up for about 2 hours on a Thursday night with women who want to become either agents and or real estate developers like myself. And I'm teaching them everything they want to know, any and everything. We talk about it. And now in the next phase, we're going to actually make it a course where you'll be able to click a video and play it back. And I'll be able to, give that to my grandchildren one day and show them the ropes, God willing. So that's my plan, to really, make this course a big opportunity for women in our communities to rebuild our communities. We are already developers in our own right. We already are the facilitators, the coordinators of our households, of our communities. So now we're just gonna use the same skill sets that we have and rebuild our communities. I'll say nationwide.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. So for another quick follow-up question, so you're also doing development in New Jersey as well.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any differences in what the process was like to acquire the land, to submit your plans and all that stuff?
So New Jersey, again, I should have been closing New Jersey, and it's different reasons why I haven't. But we'll say, because it is political too. So I haven't, when you go through the municipalities and when you go through the land banks, New Jersey doesn't have one yet, but they still have city-owned properties. There is some politics that goes behind it. And there's a vetting process as well. So I've been vetted, but I have been designated. And the land is cheaper. So that's why I'm being patient. You know, a lot in New Jersey could cost $70,000 right now. And I'm only getting it for, I'm not gonna tell you the number, but I'm getting it for much lower, and I'm gonna wait it out because I'm getting it for much lower,
Yeah.
And then once you become a designated developer, they'll give you pretty much whatever you want. They just want to make sure you can uphold to the promise and redevelop. I'm sorry if I didn't answer your question.
No, that was it. That was it. Yeah, that was it. Wow, that's really fascinating. I think the coolest thing about this interview is the fact it's I just think the journey is amazing. Just thinking about where you started. You were fired from your job as a real estate paralegal.
Mm-hmm.
You got into wholesaling. That was just your first experience. You learned how to analyze deals. You learned how to compile a list of buyers. You learned how to put deals together. You learned how to do all those things. And, eventually you just felt you weren't doing your community a service. That was just the core of everything.
Yeah.
Then you got into being a landlord and an agent as well, helping homeless families primarily. That was your focus, to find housing, which also helped you as you became a landlord, because those same types of families through the program you mentioned or through Section 8 became your tenants.
Right.
Then you took it a step further. You went to the Midwest. You went to Kansas City in our communities and spotted an opportunity. And something else is that you also networked a lot as well. Even from back then, your partner and just everyone. One of the themes throughout this interview was building that community, building that network of people who fill the gaps, who have the knowledge you don't have. Then taking it even a step further, getting into acquiring land, developing and going ground up. And it seems, all those relationship skills, they are benefiting you now, because now you're taking it even to a higher level, to the government level, the municipalities and so forth, politicians, all that good stuff. And so I think it's just great, especially because the core of it is just to help our community, become owners, to help our community have good housing, clean housing, safe housing, somewhere they can be proud of. So, I'm just so excited to see how, where you're at in 6 months or a year from now. And just what these final developments look like, what your future developments look like, how your women's group grows and your course and everything. So, I really think you're not even scratching the surface of where you're going to be in the future.
Aww. Thank you. And hopefully we'll be able to work together in the future. Yeah. Especially since you're already vested in Ohio. So that'd be great. If we may be collaborating in the future.
Definitely. I got some questions I want to ask you off camera.
Sure. And again, my mission is to help, of course, myself and others rebuild their communities. Again, we allow our communities to be pimped out all the time, and that has to come to an end. And it's not that challenging to get it done. If I could do it, anybody could do it. And through the power of networking, like you said, and partnerships, you can get it done. So I'm here to encourage everybody to utilize who's in your network, build up your team, wherever you lack, make sure you hire somebody on your team that get it done for you. And that's it.
For sure. So as we get ready to close out, someone who's listening to this interview, they might be interested in everything you've done, the wholesaling, the development, the, being a landlord and being a general contractor. So I guess overall, what are some tips you would give to someone who's brand new? Maybe they have different interests in real estate. What are some tips based on your experience, perhaps things you would have done different in the beginning? What are maybe 2-3 tips that you would give to somebody just getting started out?
That's a good question. Always control the contract if you're going to be wholesaling. So that means use your own contracts for wholesaling. If you're going to be rehabbing, become a general contractor and learn that business. Do not depend on anybody to tell you that something is correct or to build your house, because contractors, they have a tendency of taking advantage of people. And I can say that for New Jersey, it was easy for me to become a contractor. Other states may be harder, but if you can become a contractor and it's easy and you want to learn that business, do it. Okay, you'll have control over how much you're paying people. You can fire people easily without investing a lot of money into the project. And you can just control that narrative. So control is important in this real estate game, because some people will take advantage of you if you give them too much control in a deal. As a developer or as an agent, I mean, I think we could sum that up and say, make sure you go into a brokerage that wants to help you achieve your goals, and it's a community to make you be the best realtor or agent in the world. And I could say that my broker does allow me to do that, and I'm actually building up a real estate team as well. So
What aren't you doing?
I'm always doing something. I mean, whatever vision God gives me, I just run with it.
Yeah.
With speed. But you know, you want to make sure you have a broker that supports your vision and your goals. And then as a developer, you know, again, you have to be a visionary. You have to know what you want for your community. And I would say don't do it because of money. Of course, you're going to make money. And in this business in general, sometimes you may not make money. It may take you months to get to your first wholesale check, your commission check, whatever, or even to close a deal. So you need to be passionate about real estate and building wealth, and understand that you're in it for the long haul. It's not a quick money scheme, as people may allow you to believe. It does take commitment and dedication and perseverance in many cases. So do everything with passion and become knowledgeable for yourself. Okay, even if I tell you something, make sure you double check what I'm telling you is correct. Learn the business yourself. Don't depend on somebody to tell you the shortcuts or the cheat code. Do the research yourself. And I would advise to get a mentor that can eventually become your partner on your business deals. Partnership is vital.
For sure. Is there anything else you want to leave with our listeners?
No, keep God first. If you believe in God, keep God in first. I would recommend, again, you should be reading a lot about this business. And sometimes you don't have to read books, read newspapers. Read what's happening in your government, in your town, in your city. That's how I find out about a lot of development opportunities by reading in local newspapers in different areas. So make sure you're reading like every day what's happening locally in your government.
For sure. And where can people find you if they want to just talk to you, connect with you more? What are the best places to find you?
Yes, so my handle all over social media right now is Dionte Chantel. That's on IG, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. All right.
Sounds good. Wow. That was a really fun interview. I learned a whole lot, especially on the development piece. So I think that was great. I know our listeners get a lot of value out of it. And for everyone, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Black Real Estate Dialogue Podcast. Talk to you all soon.